we have, in terms of duration of time, infinity. So they usually kind of go hand in hand, and they link up and get their thing going. So all of these cosmic beings, once again, if you collected the Marvel trading cards back in the early 90s, that's a good way to catch up on a lot of them. And then nowadays, of course, there's always Google, right? But that's just for the hardcore fan. But the big one, the Living Tribunal, that's the guy right there, right?
Cool Geeks Tribunal, eternal, forever.
Yep. What's going on, y'all? Cool Geeks Tribunal, Chester Hero here, full effect. Cups up. Tribunal talk today. That's what we doing. So, all year, we got a chance to really see how large the Marvel universe actually is. From a cinematic standpoint, it's always been huge within the comics, but cinematically it really expanded, right? We got all of the Marvel shows in totality. Well, so far anyway, for a whole year of them, with WandaVision, Hawkeye, ending with Hawkeye. We had Loki, What If series, and even Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right? But what I really wanted to concentrate on was the real star of all of it, right? Shang-Chi, dope, great introduction with that movie. Love that one. We had Black Widow, finally, she got her flick. Shout out to Scarlett Johansson. And we had, what's the other one? SpiderMan No Way Home. How can we forget that, right? That's huge. This thing is still popping money, like making it rain all over the place, right? Money all over the place for that. But the real star above all of these individual characters has been the multiverse. Multiverse talk all year long. What is the multiverse? Let's break it down. In order to break it down, we gotta go back a little ways, right? So let's see. The Marvel universe is huge, like I said, right? So we got to take this into outer space. We going out there now. This is where we going with this, right? So you have these cosmic beings that pretty much are like judge and jury of different aspects and elements of the Marvel universe, right? So I'll run down a few of them real quick, right? Galactus, let's start there because everybody pretty much knows Galactus. He got his debut in Fantastic Four, and he is the pretty much the Lord and Master of Silver Surfer for a while. He's where Silver Surfer got, he gave Silver Surfer his powers, wanted to destroy his planet, because what Galactus does is he takes the energy, he siphons the energy from planets so he can live, and he needed someone to go out throughout the galaxy or galaxies and find places that have the energy that he needs so he can sustain his own life, right? He's shown up a lot in the books. He was alluded to in Fantastic Four Part 2, Rise of the Silver Surfer, which was prior to the MCU. There's a few other cosmic beings that made their debut cinematically as well, but they didn't, they're just not as popular, but we run through them anyway, right? So Eternals, boom, just came out. We got the Celestials, a whole race of these huge robotic cosmic beings. They created the Eternals. The Eternals are like from the beginning of time on the planet, watching over humans, kind of in secret, and just moving, living amongst us. And it's sort of like robotic sort of creatures, right? So that's kind of interesting to have robots at the beginning of time, where robots now are supposed to be the thing that's supposed to replace man, because we move too slow. They're supposedly more efficient. They move without emotion, just get the job done. And I guess a lot of people feel like if you go more digital, you can save more resources and things on the planet. So, and you have a lot more convenience with just things of a robotic nature, right? So that's kind of an interesting thing. But what other cosmic beings do we have? We have the In-Betweener, who, if you read the comics, then you pretty much know like this guy. He also, if y'all ever had these Marvel trading cards, they're a great way to break down these characters, right? So let's read this one real fast. We have the In-Betweener, who made his appearance in Warlock Volume 1, number 11, February 1975. The servant of the forces of order and chaos, the In-Betweener is a living embodiment of all dualities, wisdom and ignorance, power and weakness, good and evil, light and dark, a cosmic being forever caught between contradictions, living in two worlds with the powers of both. All right. So he's not someone that shows up often, but you see that he's in another one here that pretty much has a lot of power. We have the Stranger, who we haven't seen. If you read the Infinity Gauntlet comic, which I have here with all of the cosmic beings lined up, you should definitely check that series out if you haven't read that. We know most people saw Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, but this is where it started at, so you want to get to that, right? Ego. We have him from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So with as Peter Quill's dad, he was a living planet, right? We have Death. Now, she was the inspiration for Infinity Gauntlet that made Thanos want to go out and collect the gems so that way he can wipe out everything in the entire universe. But they didn't bring her as his inspiration in the movies. They just kept her in the comic, right? So we have the Collector, who we've also seen in the what was the movie? Guardians of the Galaxy. I think it was Volume 1 and 2. He made an appearance. And I think also in Infinity War, he made an appearance. Just pretty much collecting everything throughout the universe, usually the last of whatever species it may be, which hilariously was Howard the Duck. You know, that was one of the characters that, you know, beings that he collected. And if y'all recall Howard the Duck from back in the day, that movie, always a good watch. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. But before the MCU was a thing and the Marvel was popping on the big screen, they were pumping out Howard the Duck movies. So that's hilarious. So hopefully they're not ashamed of that past, because I still enjoy that movie. What else we got? Eternity and Infinity. Before I get to the big dog, let me break down Eternity and Infinity, right? So Eternity is the embodiment of this universe, the Marvel universe, in space, right? We have, in terms of duration of time, infinity. So they usually kind of go hand in hand, and, you know, they link up and get their thing going. So all of these cosmic beings, as it once again, if you collected the Marvel trading cards back in the early 90s, that's a good way to catch up on a lot of them. And then nowadays, of course, there's always Google, right? But that's just for the hardcore fan. But the big one, the Living Tribunal, that's the guy right there, right? So he is the one that makes the decision on if a universe exists or not. So he made a slight debut in one of the latter episodes of the Loki series on Disney Plus. Like, they had his head like laying down, a statue of him in it or whatever. So you had to really be paying attention to catch it. But any which way, I look at like the Living Tribunal and the three things again that he has to go through to make the decision, which is confer with the different faces that make up his head. Again, equity, vengeance, necessity. Is that a maddening process to have to go through? And does the possibility of that being a maddening process to make a decision on what you're going to do if you need to eradicate an entire universe, which goes into trillions of beings on any given planet and everything like that. Now, when we are heading towards very soon a movie which is supposed to be a very dark movie, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, where it seems like his antagonist is going to be himself from the dark side, which they already touched on in the What If animated series. So watching that and preceding that from Spider-Man No Way Home and looking at the several ways that the multiverse has been affected and touched on and possibly disrupted, which could cinematically truly bring in the Living Tribunal, WandaVision, Scarlet Witch. If you ever read House of M, you know that her mental instability can bring forth all types of chaos. We saw what she did with Westview. And if you watch that series, she seriously affected reality. We don't know how far reaching that was, but we do know she's supposed to make an appearance in the Multiverse of Madness as well. So rewatch that series if you've already seen it. If you haven't seen it at all, watch it for the first time closely. Definitely binge that. That was a good watch. We go into the What If series, which was animated, which dealt strictly with the cinematic universe, and the possibilities with the Watcher watching and breaking into all, and we saw the glass break and everything split. Same thing with Loki and the time variance, and when that timeline split, and then you had to get the time police and everybody, the time variant police and all of that after him, right? And Kang's involvement hopping around through time. Avengers Endgame. Before all of that, we saw how, through the quantum realm and quantum technology with Ant-Man, the Hulk, in Bruce Banner's mind, trying before Tony Stark perfected the time machine, how that could possibly be affecting the multiverse, right? And bringing about the multiverse or the knowledge of it. Most definitely, Spider-Man No Way Home dealt with it and actually showed a lot of the multiverse and everything that could come from it and the dangers of it, right? It's very cool. We got, multiple Spider-Men. Everybody's hyped about that. Andrew Garfield, he never got so much love ever before. When his 2 movies came out, he was looking like Ben Affleck in Batman or Daredevil or something. It was kind of sad. But now he's been brought back and got new life. Same thing for Tobey Maguire and his take on Spider-Man, because his last outing as Spider-Man back in 2007, when he had on the black costume, that didn't go too well for him either. That little dance routine he did or whatever, I don't know what that was about. They could have kept that one. But it was cool to see them all come back. But what are the maddening possibilities and possible ramifications that can come from this whole multiverse split? The multiverse being recognized, everybody knowing what's going on with the fact that there's multiple versions of reality going on simultaneously, right? That got to drive somebody crazy, because my thing is, if you have rumored to have Tom Cruise being another version of Iron Man, does that undermine what we felt in the loss of Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man? Does that make the weight of everything that went on from the snap, does it undermine all of it? And that's just as a fan watching, right? For the characters themselves that are supposedly, living it, right, in a fictional world, what does that mean for them and their mental stability? Spider-Man Peter Parker, he's asking Doctor Strange for a favor to wipe everybody's mind out, that has to do with him. That's almost like, I look at that almost like, to use like a sports metaphor, right? Like if you were, when sports players got caught up with the steroids and everything, and they wanted to wipe away like Barry Bonds and Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire's home runs. All right, well, if you try to take those home runs away from them, even though it was proven that they cheated, then that means you got to change the score of the games. Then that means you have to change the outcome of playoff series or playoff standings. Then you have to change. Then there's like endless possibilities to all of the things that can come from messing around with whatever was. Maybe even though there was cheating involved, maybe it was necessary and important. And if you mess with that, trying to quote unquote fix it, then that becomes a problem, a bigger issue, right? When we look at the multiverse, right? The main theme of the multiverse means that you have, again, we have multi-universes, right? So this is all a collection of universes that the Living Tribunal presides over. He watches and makes his judgments. All right, cool. But we keep seeing time splitting. Splitting seems to be the common theme when dealing with a multiverse, right? So we always thought, like, yo, this is one universe. It's one me. It's one them. This is what I did. That's it. No do-overs. It is what it is. You don't know that there's another version of you someplace else doing the exact same thing someplace else, and they own with their own take on it, right? Everything's being split. So, want to draw a parallel to another movie that had like a comic book vibe to it. There was a movie called Split. Also, the sequel to it, which was Glass. And if I remember correct, the predecessor to both of those was Unbreakable with Samuel L. Jackson, right? So dealing with the movie Split, you got this guy that has 23 personalities within himself. And in those 23 personalities, they highlight like maybe about 4 or 5 of them, right? At one time, any given time, he could be a little boy. There's himself who's seeking mental help, and he has a psychiatrist. Then there's the little boy he turns into. Then there's the OCD guy that is basically like a rapist and a kidnapper, but he wants everything clean and spotless while he's doing his dirt. Then we have him as a woman. So he's walking around like as this older chick. So there's that. Then we have another character called the Beast, right? And that one doesn't come out until much later. And all of the other personalities are afraid of him, even though they all crazy and cause trouble themselves. This particular character, this particular one, the Beast, he can walk on walls without getting bit by a radioactive spider. He's just like crawling through ceilings. He's super strong, and he's a murderer. He's a monster. He's a problem. So I look at the craziness of that. You look at the mental instability of someone like that, even if it takes them to heights that you never thought that you could imagine just in your normal, regular human, sane, quote unquote, sane mind. When we're looking at Spider-Man in his outer body version of Split, where you have the Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield of him coming in, these different versions of him, right? When we look at from the trailer that came out with the Multiverse of Madness, we look at that Spider-Man. That Doctor Strange, sorry. That Doctor Strange, the negative one that they also showed in the What If series, which is sort of like that outer body version of a split personality, right? Just drawing parallels through different forms and mediums and movies. Then it also makes me think, like, in reality, right? While they're showing us the multiverse here, we're living in a time now where there's a thing now, social media has transitioned into now what has become the metaverse, we now want to put the Oculus on, go deeper into the crevices of our minds and be able to go into this digital world through our minds and into the device, and now create a place where we can make a woman, I guess make a man, you can buy real estate, and you can have all of these different things within this fake reality. Or I guess it would be an alternate reality, right? So my thing is, well, while we all preoccupied in this metaverse and being entertained through the multiverse, who's watching what's going on in the real world, in the physical world? You know, are we being conditioned to want to abandon it? I see things in like different other movies. Like if y'all ever see Demolition Man, right? 1993 Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes flick, where you had a society where people didn't touch each other anymore. You know, this is how they was high-fiving, whatever that's about. They were already on the social conditioning tip. They already called it out that before Arnold Schwarzenegger became governor, they were like, nah, he became the president. They called that out early. It wasn't an Oculus on the eyes, but on top of their heads, there was no exchange of bodily fluids or even just the body touching for the purposes of sex, right? So you look at all of these things, and like a lot of these predictive programming sort of tools and things that give you that sort of vibe. And I'm just like, how deep down the rabbit hole are we going to go before we be in another movie called Get Out? You know, how deep are we going to go into the sunken place? But we've been in the Twilight Zone, I guess, right? Like the Twilight Zone is not a new thing. So what I'm noticing from Eternals going down to this madness, you know, Multiverse of Madness, how close are we getting to iRobot? It's just movie after movie, and we already know the Matrix. That's always been the thing, right? So we seem to be living not just sequels, but like multiple movies in cinema all at once, you know. So I just find it interesting, like, you know, drawing a parallel from the fictional to the real. And just, you know, the timing of what we're in and who's, you know, just watch what you're watching. You know, pay close attention to the things that's going on, because how far from reality do we want to get? Or do we want to try to fix what's wrong with the reality and be able to stay in the present while in a healthy way moving towards the future? You know, so it's all entertaining, it's all entertainment, it's all fun, but there is a certain element of it that feels very real while we're going into the fake. So on that note, I just wanted to holler at y'all. Tribunal Talk, Living Tribunal, look them up. Cool Geeks Tribunal, cups up. Y'all know what time it is. Chester Hero is chopping it up with y'all. Good stuff indeed. So, till next time, peace. Like us if you like us, subscribe for the vibe. Y'all know what it is. Catch y'all next time.
Stay alone before they die. Within us all live a Superman. Within our souls to survive. Don't you wish you were a Superman? Or don't you wish you were a Superman?